We'll leave it there.
There's not aliens, but there are drones.
I'll be back tomorrow. Leland, go get him, brother.
All right, buddy.
See you.
All right, major breaking news across the country at 7 p.m. Eastern, also 7 p.m. in Blair County, Pennsylvania, where the suspect in the UnitedHealthcare murder case is still being held. Luigi Mangione is now contesting his extradition to New York City. He says he's not guilty. He's fighting it both legally and on the airwaves.
That's completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
More to come of that. New details about a possible motive and why his folk hero status only continues to grow. Also tonight, the FBI and White House can't explain hundreds of drone sightings in places like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, even New York City. How China could use drones for a preemptive strike on America.
You've always got to kind of strike the balance. I mean, I personally believe that any drone that's in the skies should be able to be taken down if there's not some way to authenticate them.
Not only can't they take it down, they can't figure out where the drones are coming from. And these are not little drones. These are big drones, the size of cars. The chair of the House Homeland Security Committee tells us why he knows what he knows, and more importantly, what he does not know. Later, Robert F. Kennedy says he has the magic pill to fix America's obesity crisis. It's not Ozempic. How his MAHA plan could make Ma go broke. And with that, we welcome you to the fairest network on television. And first tonight, legacy hunting. And the big problem, legacy hunting by Joe Biden, is causing Democrats. Live pictures of the White House, where President Biden is hosting a Christmas dinner. It's his second public event of the day, a rainy day here in Washington. You might have noticed he's been out and about a little more often since the election. It's no secret why. Just look at the headlines. The Washington Examiner writes, Jimmy Carter 2.0. Yet another Democratic presidency ends in disaster. USA Today, Biden's sad failed presidency, even worse than Trump's first term. And The Guardian, not exactly a conservative newspaper. Biden has been wrecking his legacy, but he still has time to do the right things. Joe Biden knows he's on his way out. He's desperately trying to cement his legacy, to define his legacy, something presidents always try to do and never can. Case in point, a 37-minute speech today before the Brookings Institute, where he laid out his case for creating the best economy in the world. Part of that included spending initiatives that led to runaway inflation.
But I believe it was the right thing to do. Not only to lift America out of economic crisis caused by a pandemic, but set America on a stronger course for the future. And we did that.
If you missed the speech, you're not alone. Not a single one of the cable networks took it. But you can catch the highlights by visiting the president's new economic website, whitehouse.gov/economy. Nothing says desperate like a new government website. Call it a cry for a legacy. And he is not done. Here's just a brief preview of the possible lame duck parade that's headed our way. More massive aid to Ukraine. Seems as though they're announcing hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars every day. Preemptive pardons for Trump's critics and Dr. Fauci. Commutation of death penalty cases. Student loan forgiveness. That comes after everything we've already seen. Think of this as actions of a dark Brandon unleashed. Democrats focused on the future of their party are livid, and Joe Biden does not care. He was pushed out and embarrassed by the same people who are angry now, and Biden clearly plans to do as he pleases. And despite the fact that he's held 23 public events in 3 countries in 34 days, he has said only a handful of unscripted words. Establishment Democrats think he is not leading. He's too worried about his legacy to take on Donald Trump. A team of Politico writers are out with a new piece. Biden shrinks from view ahead of Trump's return to Washington. They quote a number of Democrats close to senior lawmakers as saying there's no leadership coming from the White House. There's a total vacuum. It feels like Trump is president already. So let's just zoom out for a bit. As we like to say, Washington here, 68 square miles surrounded by reality. And President Biden, like anyone else, is trying to determine his legacy in the eyes of the American people, not in the eyes of Washington. There's a difference. Our friend Chris Cillizza wrote some very pointed questions about this subject. Will Biden, the man who vanquished Donald Trump, the president who led the country out of the COVID-19 pandemic, the guy who should have bowed out after a single term, the dad who pardoned his son, all of those things, none of them somewhere in between. It's a long list. These are all very real possibilities for how Biden will be remembered. But one moment in particular struck out to us during Biden's speech this afternoon.
We've got a lot to do, and I'm leaving the presidency, but I'm not going away. It's bad news for you all. I've taken much too much of your time, and I apologize, but you're among the most informed people in Washington. And I would really appreciate down the road here a little bit any constructive criticism you have, and I'm sure you have some.
It's a little sad, right? Got us thinking about the other side of Joe Biden, an ambitious guy from working-class Scranton. After 50 years in office, he finally got his chance, the thing he had been working for so long, the presidency. His own party shoved him to the side, and now he's getting the last laugh. We begin today with Democratic strategist, former Obama staffer Amisha Cross, former senior advisor to Hillary Clinton, Philippe Rines. Good to see both of you. Thank you. Amisha, ladies first, start with you. Is there a feeling in the Democratic Party we wish Joe Biden well, but we also wish him gone?
Well, I think it's we wish Joe Biden well. It is obviously, there were several Democratic losses at the last election, and a movement forward. Can we continue and have Joe Biden be a part of that conversation? I think that because of those losses, because of the change in the ticket, there are some who will say no. But in addition to that, it was that they cannot translate or have not been able to translate on the road Biden's victories, be it whether it's infrastructure, be it whether it's job creation, be it whether it's, expansion of healthcare and healthcare access. There are so many things that Biden did that are things that the American public asked for.
There was a time,
that,
right?
quite frankly, did not translate on the ground in terms of the messaging.
Yeah, there was a time that we were told Joe Biden's real problem was he wasn't talking enough about his successes. And that somehow was explaining why he wasn't doing well in the polls. Philippe, I thought this was interesting when Joe Biden talked about pushing money into the American economy. Take a listen.
And also learned something from Donald Trump. He signed checks for people for $7,400 because we passed the plan. And I didn't. Stupid.
Does Joe Biden, I guess Joe Biden thinks he can define his legacy. Can he?
Sure, because he's had a great run. And I think you have to remember something is that he's not just president of the United States for 4 years. He was vice president for 8 years. He was a senator for decades. The totality of that career is going to be someone who threw himself into making things better in America. Okay, that's rather lofty. Specifically, he has been part in the last 15, 20 years of two bailouts of the American economy. First, the housing crisis, and then after COVID. As remarkable. He's looking out over 16 million new jobs, an unemployment rate average that is lower than in 50 years.
And the lowest approval
I think it's a little bit
in
much.
History.
Well, at this point, everyone's approval is down in the, I can't really say it, in the gutter, as is President Trump's. But look, any Democrat that says they are looking forward to Joe Biden leaving isn't a Democrat, because when he leaves, what they're going to get is Donald Trump Part 2, and it's going to be worse. They're going to get a Republican-controlled Senate, and now it's going to be an entire Congress. It's basically going to be what it was from 2017 to 2019. So I think people who are losing their minds are just being a little apoplectic for dramatic purposes.
Okay.
And,
but I hear you. That said, never underestimate Republicans' ability to screw things up, right? Well, that's what Democrats can always count on. They did between 2017 and 2018. If Biden compares to any modern president, people said this for the past 2 years. We made the argument Jimmy Carter. Inflation helped sink the Carter presidency, just as it did Biden's Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Foreign policy problem, the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan damaged Biden. There's a lot there. Amisha, how do Democrats not have happened to them what happened to them after Carter, which was 12 years in the wilderness until Bill Clinton?
I think that they have to, and they're poised to choose another DNC chair. We know that there are 4 who are currently announced. I assume that there will be at least 4 more before we get to the March deadline and when people are voting. But in addition to that, it is establishing a core that actually speaks to what American voters want to hear. I think that when we talk about childcare, when we talk about the cost of that, when we talk about building the middle out, when we talk about growth of the middle class, when we talk about helping to sustain an economy that makes sense for your everyday worker, those are things that the Democrats have worked strategically for and policies they have passed for a while now. Republicans, up to and including Donald Trump, they're here to make sure that there are tax cuts for the wealthy, that there are benefits for the top 1%, the top 5%, that corporations are going to have that fat cat life. At the end of the day, Democrats are that party for the working class. I think they have to have a
except the working class doesn't seem to think that. At least they didn't this past election. 2 people who I guess are trying to now make that argument, one for a little bit better success than the other, Josh Shapiro, Gavin Newsom. Take a listen.
The suspect here who shot at that CEO and killed that CEO is a coward, not a hero. And we need to make sure that in this country we get back to having a civil discourse about our differences.
We were the great state of California in the 50s and 60s, and we all romanticize that. It's a great state of California in 2024, 2025, and over the course of the next decade.
Democratic Party, Philippe, of 2024 did not work. We can all agree on that. The voters said that.
Well, we can agree that we lost, but
okay. Well, the voters did accept.
I mean, the electoral victory.
Look forward for me. Look forward for me. What do Democrats have to look for in whoever the standard bearer is for 2028?
I think we need to do a better job of articulating what we are doing, focusing on the middle class, because we are, in fact, focusing on the middle class. The president might have made that joke about the checks, about signing the checks and Donald Trump branding them. But obviously his point is if people don't know what you're doing, they're not going to think you're doing anything. And to go back a little bit, there's a huge difference between Joe Biden and Jimmy Carter. Not that I remember Jimmy Carter firsthand, but it was noticeably absent really of any successor. President Biden, like I said before, without going through them again, had them. And I think, it's just like the camping story and the bear. You don't have to be faster than the bear. You just have to be faster than your friend. Presidents don't need to be better than Lincoln or FDR or Washington. They need to be better than the other guy. The other guy is Donald Trump, who has been roundly ranked as the worst of all 46 men who have held the office. And I think that's going to be a big part of it. 2024, look, Josh Shapiro has some work to do. His name approval isn't even high enough that you know that it's Josh and not Jack. Gavin Newsom, these people are all out there. But the focus isn't just on what to do, it's how to talk about it, because I think what got away from us.
Are you snapping over here, Misha?
Because I think that the policies matter, but the messaging and who you're actually using as messengers probably matter more. And I think the Republicans ran away with that in a way that the Democrats literally were asleep at the wheel on.
See, look, we've got 2 Democrats agreeing. That's more than normally happens in Washington. Philippe, Misha, thank you very much. It's good to see you. Next time in the studio,
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Philippe has more to say. We'll have him back. Back to Blair County, Pennsylvania right now. A judge denied bail today for the man accused of assassinating UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Under Pennsylvania law, they'll have to get a governor's warrant in order to extradite Luigi Mangione to New York. That's a process that could take about a month. Meanwhile, friends and family say he went crazy after receiving a spinal surgery. A social media profile appears to have an X-ray of his spinal surgery online. NewsNation's Alex Capriello live in Blair County, where Mangione is being held this evening. All right, when's he due back in court, Alex? What's the plan?
Well, officially, we know that his preliminary hearing is going to be December 23rd, but the big question will be this other set deadline, 14 days that the defense has to file any sort of motions that they might have. Of course, they're already on the record saying that they're going to fight tooth and nail. 1, fighting that extradition, saying that they don't want to bring him to New York. And then number 2, that they believe that he is not guilty of the crimes he's accused of, both here in Pennsylvania as well as New York. So there's a lot of legal proceedings that have to still happen. But as for what happened today, it was the denial of bail, even though the defense attorney says he's entitled to it, and also the contesting of that extradition. So he will stay here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for the time being.
All right, so, Alex, we saw him yell, that outburst we played earlier, as he was walked in to the courtroom and try to play for the cameras. Clearly, he's trying to inspire others. He has some type of manifesto motive out there. He's a folk hero now on social media. There's groups selling swag or merchandise online with his face for taking on capitalism and healthcare, known anti-capitalist. Is there any plan now to keep him away from the cameras so the next perp walk he doesn't get to pull this kind of shenanigans?
I mean, I think that would be a very smart move on everyone's part. I mean, even from the defense attorney, he doesn't want his client to speak up. We heard earlier today in the courtroom at one moment where Luigi Mangione tried to interject and interrupt his own defense attorney while he was making a case for why he should have bail, in which case that his own attorney shut him down real quick, Leland. He goes,
wow.
No, don't say a word. Right. So that was the defense attorney putting his foot down and saying, look, this is not your time. Let me handle this. And then from the prosecution, the Commonwealth and Manhattan, obviously they don't want this guy to be glorified as a hero or some sort of savior to the American public. Certainly that's the sentiment that we're seeing online. And my own Twitter mentions, that's all I'm seeing, too. A lot of people, not only for his actions, but also for his looks. People just seem to be glorifying this guy.
Yeah, they certainly do. There's a pathology there, and irony, too. All right, Alex, thank you very much. We appreciate it. The attorney for the UnitedHealthcare CEO murder suspect joins Chris Cuomo live in about 45 minutes. They are not aliens or UFOs, because those do not exist. But drones the size of small cars are flying over American military bases, Donald Trump's house, and major power plants. Why the FBI can't figure out who's flying them or why. Today, the White House said they have no idea who's behind hundreds of mysterious drones flying near America's major cities over the past 3 weeks. They have no idea where they're from, who's flying them, and what kind of threat they pose. The video's stunning. There's a reason somebody's doing this at night. They've been spotted very low in the sky, mostly in New Jersey. They fly just above the tree lines. They're quite loud. They change direction quickly and often turn off their lights when spotted. The unidentified drones flew near the Verrazano Bridge in Brooklyn. It's the busiest bridge in New York State. The drones appear to be surveying and spreading out. They are not the kind of drones your kid gets for Christmas. Some witnesses say they're the size of small cars. 11 confirmed sightings put them above the Picatinny Arsenal. That's a military base where the U.S. Army develops its most advanced weapons and ammunition. And despite everything I just told you, the White House does not seem to have a clue.
These are not small drones, some of them pretty large. They're flying at low altitudes. They're flying in flocks. Has the president been briefed on this situation?
So we are certainly aware. The president is aware. So we're closely tracking the activity and coordinating closely with relevant agency, including DHS and FBI, to continue to investigate these incidents. I don't have anything beyond that to share. Obviously, this is something that DHS and FBI are tracking very, very closely, and so I would have to refer you to them directly.
With us now, Congressman Mark Green of Tennessee, chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, held hearings on the drones today. Good to see you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. These are not drones you buy at Walmart.
No, these are
okay.
Yeah.
These are big,
They
size bigger than this set, perhaps. How is it possible we don't know who's doing this?
Well, you have to capture the drone, download the data, find out where the remote is, located. And I mean, it takes capturing one of these things to actually get any data. Now, there are other classified mechanisms of getting information, but those aren't in the hands of local law enforcement who are watching this kind of stuff. That's why I've got a bill right now to actually empower local law enforcement to do some things with drones. But right now, that authority doesn't exist for those guys.
So there's also been reports of drones over other U.S. military bases, Dam Neck, Virginia, where SEAL Team 6 is based, over other kinds of shipyards. You can't just go buy one of these things. Is there not? But maybe you can. Can anybody come out and buy a highly sophisticated drone that can fly 50 miles?
Absolutely. There are not restrictions on the size of a drone, right? So you could go and buy a drone that you can fly. I mean, there have been videos on YouTube. You can check it out. People building their own drones with multiple propellers, and then they hop in it and fly around like a hovercraft. So if
you can do it on YouTube, a Chinese spy can do it.
A Chinese spy can do it.
Is there any reason to believe...
Actually, more concerning, if I could, Leland, is the terrorists at an NFL football game.
Okay, explain that. I mean, you see them in the size relative to a house. They're enormous. And local law enforcement can't fly over with helicopters? And
currently, local law enforcement, because of the FAA's regulation of our airspace, they've granted, and there's prior authorities, interestingly enough, that expire soon, that allow the DOJ and the DHS. We've had over 3,000 incursions, or almost 3,000 incursions across the southern border. They have authorities to take these down. Local law enforcement do not. And we've got to grant them the authority, or we're not going to ever, I mean...
No, you have to be able to, because you say the real danger is terrorists in an NFL stadium. We've all seen the video out of Ukraine. Is that sort of where we're going with this, of using drones to drop explosives, to spread a chemical agent? What is it?
The potential exists for all of that.
Okay, so this is the video of what drones do in Ukraine, and these are drones that are the size of, a shoebox.
Yeah, well, look, the capabilities, even with small drones, and our military is using these things in very advanced ways. That means our enemy probably is also. And we have to be prepared to protect the homeland. That's why this piece of legislation has got to pass.
All right, Governor of New Jersey, take a listen.
We've got military assets, we've got utility assets, we've got the president-elect's one of his homes here. This is something we're taking deadly seriously. We've gotten good cooperation out of the feds, but we need more, and that was my plea.
When you had the feds in front of the committee today, did you feel as though they were taking it seriously enough and scared about it?
This was an open hearing today, so we have a classified briefing on it on Thursday morning. In the open briefing, they expressed the fear. They expressed, yes, this could be potentially harmful to America. They don't have the intent of these drones, right? We don't know what the intent of these. We didn't get them. But the potential exists for all of that, and the feds, as you call them, admitted that today.
God, and you look at the video, how big they are. Something else I want to... Verrazano Bridge, that's what they're flying over right now. So you can imagine surveying a bridge for what...
Well, all of our critical infrastructure, not just bridges,
power
plants,
right, water. And they're flying at night for a reason. Like, this isn't just accidental.
Right.
I want to get you on this real quick, because this is also in your purview. We know an enormous amount now about the UnitedHealthcare shooter, now just less than a week after the shooting. Then again, on your right side of the screen, people may not recognize that picture, but that is the man who came within a quarter inch of killing Donald Trump, and we still know almost nothing about him. How is that possible?
Well, that's a choice of the DOJ, because we have gone to the FBI ourselves and asked for detailed information. We wanted the transcripts from his phones. I'm on the committee investigating the assassination attempt. The FBI gave us a lot of stuff. They let us go look at the weapon. They let us look at the backpack. They would not give us the details on this shooter. And they use the excuse of it's an investigation, criminal, investigation. The guy's dead. I mean, tell us, FBI, who this kid is. Tell us who he talked to. Exactly.
And the fact that they're not doing that tells you what?
Well, it's very concerning, that's all. I don't want to speculate. But it's concerning. We're an equal branch of government.
Well,
a co-equal branch of government.
I guess the other way you could say it is, whether it's concerning, there's a reason.
I won't speculate on that reason.
I'm glad we got the ISO camera shot for that. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks.
Pete Hegseth's nomination for Secretary of Defense is back on track. We predicted this, how Trump's transition team is twisting arms and taking no prisoners. Mar-a-Lago, where the president-elect's team, Donald Trump's team, has reasons to celebrate. It's lit up there, maybe a party going on. Pete Hegseth's nomination for Secretary of Defense is back on track. We predicted this and told you that saving Hegseth's nomination would give Trump newfound political strength and capital. That is exactly what has happened. First, what's changed? Or rather, who's changed? Because senators have to change to get to 50 votes. Take Senator Joni Ernst, for example, who last week appeared hesitant over Pete Hegseth's Secretary of Defense nomination. Now, suddenly, maybe not all in, but she's certainly warming up to Trump's pick.
I think for a number of our senators, they want to make sure that any allegations have been cleared, and that's why we have to have a very thorough vetting process. We have been talking these same issues every meeting that we've had, and he had really thoughtful answers.
Big change. This newfound fairness and interest in Hegseth isn't because of his charm. It's because behind the scenes, Trump went to war. Here's our friend Mark Halperin.
I'm telling you, Trump thought he was dead. It wasn't like some fantasy or my sources tricking me or spinning me. He was dead. But he's been brought to life by an extraordinarily effective team of Sherpas who figured out a strategy. They basically good cop, bad cop with the senators. Good cop, we respect advise and consent. We want to hear you out, etc. Bad cop, if you cross President Trump on this nomination, you will be primaried and lose.
Among those Sherpas, at least those planning things at Mar-a-Lago, senior counselor for trade manufacturing, former White House trade advisor, Peter Navarro from Mar-a-Lago. We know that because of the tan. Good to see you. Welcome back to the swamp.
It's good to be with you.
Take us inside Mar-a-Lago.
Sure.
Is there a different willingness to fight, take risks, and then fight for those risks 2024 versus 2016?
If you go back to 2016, we were very low on the learning curve, and there was just a lot of bad people coming in and out. We couldn't figure out who were the good guys, who were the bad guys. A lot of mistakes were made. This time, the boss, he's at the top of the learning curve, and he's ready to soar. He knows what he wants, who he wants, and he wants people who will embrace the MAGA principles.
I get that he wants that, and obviously we've talked through for the past couple of weeks about the nominations, and he's spoken to that. But I sense a difference in how they're approaching the confirmation fights, that there's a willingness to knock heads, twist arms, play bad cop that there wasn't in 2016.
I can't really comment on that, but personnel is policy. From a policy point of view, what I do know is that Pete Hegseth, for example, the Department of Defense, is perfect for policy. What we've had in the past for many, many years now is these endless wars. Donald Trump wants to end endless wars.
I get the reason, but the fact that Donald Trump went to war, so to speak, at the end of last week for Pete Hegseth, things have changed. We put up the list of the nominees that have come so far. Obviously, Matt Gaetz, I know a friend of yours, bowed out. He's now going to be hosting his own show on a different network. The nominee for the DEA said, never mind, I'm out, or Donald Trump pulled the rug out, you might say, from under him. The question is, was there a realization in Mar-a-Lago, this was our reporting, that we've got to fight, otherwise we're going to start losing all the people that you talked about for policy?
Yeah, I'm not going with your premise here that Donald Trump went to war. What Donald Trump is simply doing, it's a beautiful thing to watch. He's just being Donald Trump and explaining what the realities are. And I think what's different now is he won in a landslide. He has a right to his nominees. The Senate has an important role in terms of confirmation. But look, if Pete Hegseth is qualified to do the job, they should certainly appoint him. So this is such a different atmosphere since we've ever had. This is a landslide. The country is in deep trouble, and we've got to solve all sorts of problems. So whether you go to DHS and Kristi Noem and Tom Homan, or whether you go to the Pentagon with Pete Hegseth, whether you deal with some of the trade issues, the new guy at Treasury, Scott Bessent, is perfect for that job. The boss is picking people in a way that...
So you notice a difference in how he's approaching?
Huge. He knows who he wants, and he knows who he wants because he knows what he wants. And that's the learned experience.
And is there less of a willingness to be swayed? I understand look, advice and consent, but is there less of a willingness to take into account what other parts of the Republican Party may feel?
Certainly the rhino wing, as we know it, the wing that wants to send our jobs offshore, that wants open borders, and that has endorsed the endless wars, they have no say. They have no say.
And there's a willingness now to go up against them. There wasn't.
Of course.
How would you describe that? Take me inside Mar-a-Lago and explain how.
Well, it's more important to go inside the transition office, which is across the bridge from Mar-a-Lago. Sergio Gore, who I have great regard for, is running that with a lot of really good people in there. And what they're doing is going about the business of running people through. Everybody who's coming in gets 3 different interviews. Pete was there himself. The secretary, Bessent's there. The secretaries are here. And it's just working. They're weeding out the people who shouldn't be there. They're figuring out the people who should be there. And that's night and day from 2016. It's just a beautiful thing to watch. So one of the people who's now omnipresent. It's so impressive.
You don't use that word lightly. One of the people who's omnipresent now is Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Page 6, the New York Post. Elon Musk wanting to buy the late beauty mogul Seidel Miller's Lux apartment. We don't have a picture of the apartment, but it's reported to be $100 million. You've probably been part of Trump world and a trusted member of Trump world longer than almost anybody. I remember interviewing you in 2015 when there was only a couple of you guys, and you've stuck around through the whole time. Do you see Elon Musk sticking around and being accepted into Trump world for the long run?
Let me tell you what I think is the importance of Elon and Vivek in terms of what they're doing. We've got a tremendous inflation problem. And we've got a tremendous budget deficit problem. And what Elon and Vivek are doing can solve both of those problems, at least partly.
I get all that, but have you seen in Elon Musk the kind of qualities of someone who Donald Trump's going to keep around for the long term?
I cannot say. And I don't think he's keeping him around. I think Elon's there performing an important function.
But it's beyond Doge, right? It's into advising on almost everything now.
I can't confirm that.
Okay.
I can't confirm that. What I do know is that if we can cut back on the government personnel that are out in Idaho now phoning in and not doing anything, that's going to solve both our budget problem and make things more efficient. I'll tell you a little story. When I was like at the tip of the spear for the pandemic, February, March, I'm 2020, I'm fighting to save people's lives for the president. I go over to HHS, which is supposed to be the lead agency on. There was nobody there.
All right.
Nobody there. Well, and now there's still nobody there. Okay, that's the punchline.
Well,
so if Vivek and Elon can take care of that, God bless them. All right, my brother. Good to see you, man.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right. Check out War Notes. That is our daily newsletter. This is where we made a lot of our predictions last week that have now proven true. If you've been reading War Notes, you'd know what was going to happen to Pete Hegseth's nomination. Warnotes.com to subscribe for free. Email us or comment at Leland Vittert on Instagram and that thing that used to be called Twitter. I still do. RFK Jr. wants to make America healthy again, why his plan might make all of us thin, just like him, and broke. Wild as Secretary of Health and Human Services. What wild means to RFK Jr. may have a lot to do with what you eat. We know this because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has said it time and time again.
What do you think is driving the obesity epidemic? It's being driven by poison food, by ultra-processed wheat, sugar, and flour, seed oils, soy, canola, sunflower, and then, wheat and corn. Doritos, Cheez-Its, Captain Crunch, gummy bears. Everyone knows that these are junk foods, so maybe you wouldn't be too surprised to see that the ingredients include a lot of poisons. Corn is turned into high fructose corn syrup, which is just a formula for making you obese and diabetic. High fructose corn syrup.
These other countries don't have that?
No, if you want to drink a Coke, drink a Mexican Coke. They don't allow it down there.
Mexican Coke's good stuff. I buy it at Costco. RFK Jr. faces 2 big problems. The main ingredient in high fructose corn syrup is, of course, corn. And it's grown in red states, rural America. Ban high fructose corn syrup and you put Trump voters, Trump farmers out of business. Problem number 2, ultra-processed foods are cheap. Organic and clean foods are expensive. Refined cane sugar, for example, costs 41% more than high fructose corn syrup. Theodore Ross, editor-in-chief of Fern Food and Environment Reporting Network, is with us now. Theodore, is the food industry worried about what Robert F. Kennedy wants to do? And if so, what are they going to do about it?
I would imagine that they are at least somewhat concerned. There's never been somebody in the position of where RFK could be if he's confirmed as Secretary of Health and Human Services. There have been plenty of people, both in the government and out, who've called for restrictions on high fructose corn syrups and ultra processed foods, but no one as far up in the federal government as he would be. That said, the things that he wants to do tend not to be favored by the party that he represents now after the election. So if I were a major executive of one of these food corporations, yeah, I would be doing what they're doing right now, which is not saying all that much because they want to see what's going to come. But what could he do about it? He could regulate these industries. He could restrict the labeling on these kinds of foods, all kinds of things that Republicans tend not to like. So it's hard to imagine that they're too worried. But if I were a betting man, I would put my money on that he will do something. So that would be a concern.
You don't have to do a full ban to really change somebody's business, right? If you cut back the amount of high fructose corn syrup that's used by 20 or 30%, that radically changes major markets in America for corn and for processing facilities and everything else. Obesity rates 1999 to 2000, 30% of America, 2021 to 2023, 40% of America. So that is a 30% increase over 20 years. Pretty unheard of. This would be the question. Can America afford the programs of RFK Jr. in that eggs that come from, free-range chickens are a lot more expensive than eggs that come from what we would call normal chickens?
I mean, I don't think the question is whether we can afford it. People tend to choose to buy the products that are cheapest. You could subsidize better products for people to eat in this country in the way that we currently subsidize corn, which is used to make all the high fructose corn syrup that goes into the ultra processed foods. What I would be concerned about as an American consumer or somebody interested in these issues is that when RFK says he's going to get rid of such and such of a product or do such and such of a thing, there's not really a detailed plan for how he's going to achieve that in a way that would not cause those prices to go up. So unless he has some sort of method of doing it that defies the laws of supply and demand, I don't really see how you could change the system in the ways that he's talking about doing without prices going up. And the tolerance for American consumers for that kind of thing is historically pretty low.
Just ask Joe Biden. All right, Theodore, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Music mogul Jay-Z got a hero's welcome on the red carpet. Hero. Why the believe all women types don't care about new accusations he raped a 13-year-old. Music mogul Jay-Z and his family headed out on the red carpet for Mufasa last night. It's the new big Christmas movie for kids. For those of us who love irony, here you go. It is his first public appearance into accusations that Jay-Z raped a 13-year-old girl. The lawsuit alleges that he, along with fellow music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, sexually assaulted the teen after an MTV Music Video Awards party. The lawyer making the claim represents over 100 people claiming to be victims of Diddy. Of course, everybody denies everything. Jay-Z called the accusations blackmail, saying in a statement that the victim's lawyer, Tony Busby, was only interested in money. Quote, what he had calculated was the nature of these allegations and the public scrutiny would make me want to settle. No, sir. It had the opposite effect. It made me want to expose you for the very fraud you are in a very public fashion. Jay-Z now wants the plaintiff identified. But there is more. From Newsweek, he has also been accused of sexually assaulting a boy. Daily Mail exclusive reporter Kayla Brantley is with us now. Kayla, put the accusations aside. The court's going to decide these. Jay-Z, Diddy denies them, fine. I'm more interested in the response of Hollywood that went all in on Me Too, all in on Believe All Women, and yet, at least from those pictures, Jay-Z is still very much welcome as a celebrated member of the celebrity class.
Yeah, Leland. Well, we saw, the whole family come out last night. They really put on a united front. Beyonce stood by him. They went to support their 12-year-old daughter. Even Beyonce's mom was there, Tina Knowles. But what you have to understand is obviously, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. But in the court of public opinion, if you look online and you look at Twitter and especially his response to the response to his response and his emphatic denial and his statement, no one's really kind of on his side here. And, no matter what the appearances may show, if you look at the court of public opinion, they have their own opinion on him.
I'm more looking at the court of Hollywood, right? I'm more looking at the court of Vanity Fair and Vogue and the parties that are going to be this winter in Miami and over New Year's. Has that court changed, or is the celebrity cruise still, hey, until you're arrested, as Diddy was, we're fine to have people around no matter what the accusations are, so long as they're rich and famous?
Well, what I will say to that is that Diddy, as soon as those allegations came out, there were very few people standing behind him. Even Jay-Z, who has been a very close friend, a collaborator, a business partner of his, he did not come out, behind him. He didn't come out really defending him at all. So I don't think you're going to be seeing many people defending Jay-Z. But
why is it in all these cases, though? Why is it in all these cases that once the allegations come flooding out, as it has with Diddy, everyone's like, oh, well, everybody sort of suspected things, but no one ever is really willing to speak. Everybody's willing to look the other way, right, of bad behavior. Use bad probably lightly. When they're getting to party and have fun and be around celebrities.
Right. Well, this is the same thing that you're seeing with Diddy, is that everyone's saying this was kind of an open secret and no one's really going to go after them. No one's going to be the whistleblower that really wants to, open a can of worms here. And it is Hollywood. They say that they have their secrets, and we'll let the court decide that.
All right. Kayla, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Keep reading the reporting in Daily Mail. A really crazy thing is happening. Somehow, on social media and even in some media, the accused killer of the UnitedHealthcare executive is becoming something of a folk hero. It's pretty wild. Chris Cuomo is going to ask his lawyer about that and so much more in the case. Cuomo starts now from New York. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. The CEO assassin. He's confusing us, isn't he? How does a young person who looks so good on paper, who so many say such nice things about, a genius, how does he become an assassin? Someone who believes violence is the answer. Now, of course, prosecutors must bring charges and make the case beyond a reasonable doubt, but I offer you food for thought that this guy is a lot more common than you may be aware. Now, a good clue is what we heard from him today.
And completely